And so let me get to what I've been using for this. One is heads-up displays. Now, this is a system that we've been trying to make so that you can use it while in face-to-face conversation. You can use it right now, for example. You can use it just about any time. Now, the system, this is from 1997. This is by a company called Optical. And there's a display actually in the earpiece here that hits a small mirror in the corner of the lens, goes through the lens, whoops, well, that was useful. Goes through the lens, and, well, we're going to have one of those days. And then hits the mirror and goes into your eyeball. Now, you might say, why aren't I wearing this now? Well, that one was 320 by 240 monochrome, and it was relatively fragile. It was a prototype. It was the first prototype of its type. I've since switched to the other images that you can so greatly see on the slide, where it actually clips onto your glasses. And I have that sitting there. People want to see that later. That is, I think, the best system out there currently, or was out there until the company made an incorrect bet. These displays, I think, are actually getting to the stage where they're actually very usable. Now, people often ask, this is going to be fun. Ah, there we go. So that's the display here that I was talking about. Oh, we go back. Well, we'll go on to the next idea. So people often wonder, well, Thad, you're trying to make systems where people aren't looking at the displays all the time. But how can you see anything with that opaque display in front of your eyeball? Right? Seems like that's counter to what you're doing. Well, let me give you a demonstration of this. So hold up your thumbs and close one eye and pull your thumb back towards your head, and then line up your thumb on top of my face. Everybody got it? So once you do that, then open the other eye, and you'll notice that you can kind of see through your thumb to my face. Right? Close the eye again, you see you're blocking out. Open the eye, you can see through it, which is really kind of excellent example. Yeah, so now whenever I do this, I actually take pictures so my dean knows that I'm doing a good job. So thank you very much for that. So what you get is basically the equivalent of an illusion here. So here's kind of a representation of that. You can see that this is my text buffer that I have here, and that my system is overloading some information on the conversation while I'm talking to this guy. This guy is a reporter from 48 Hours. So while they're filming me, I'm filming them. But this kind of shows you what the illusion looks like. Even though the display is opaque, there's optics there that bring it into focus. So that while your thumbs are out of focus, my display is perfectly in focus while I look at you. Okay, going forward. So one of the other parts of this is making a keyboard. Now, the keyboard I use is something called the Twiddler. It's a one-handed device. It allows me to type up to 130 words per minute. Right? So that's more than most of you probably type on desktop keyboards, unless you're a programmer. Now, how it works is really quite simple. I have my 4 fingers here. They map to the 4 rows of keys. And you can see that it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, just as it's just as shown on the diagram. And then there's a red dot over here on the space. So you hold down the space key, and you hit the B key at the same time to get the I. Then it's J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q. You switch over to the blue shift, which is the E key, and it's R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So you can learn this keyboard in 5 minutes. You can touch typing in 20 minutes. You get to about 30 words per minute in 6 hours of practice, reading your email, that sort of thing. In most, I think the average person gets around 50 words per minute, which is equivalent to most people's desktop typing rates. Matter of fact, 50 words per minute is the highest pay grade in the US government for typing, or it used to be. So what's great about this device is that you can use it without visual attention. You can use it in face-to-face communication. Right? You can basically use this keyboard almost anywhere. Now, the computer itself has been shrinking quite a bit. The computer I'm wearing right now is a laptop given to me by Google that I'm wearing for security purposes. But the machines that I make myself tend to be much smaller. We started out with these systems here, which were quite big, kind of fit around your hip. These days, however, what my students have in the lab is something about the size of a stick of gum. And you can stick a 32 gigabyte SD card in it. Actually, these days, it would be a micro SD. So you end up with something about the size of a stick of gum. Unfortunately, the entire device is about the size of a pack of gum because you still got to have a battery. Right? And that battery is what takes up a lot of space. But we can make the computers disappear. Now, making the computers disappear is actually the easy part. Right now, mobile phones, probably some of the mobile phones in your pockets, are actually as powerful as the Cray XMP supercomputer that was the hot machine to have back when I first started my career. The problem is not going to make these machines shrink down. The problem is the interfaces. There's only so small we can make keyboards for our fingers. There's only so much attention we have to spend spend between the virtual and the real world. So we really need to concentrate on making systems that are usable while walking, working, and socializing. We've got to avoid this BlackBerry helmet experience. So now that you have some background of what the equipment is I'm wearing, one of the things people always ask me is, why did I do this? Well, back in the 1980s, I was spending $20,000 a year on an MIT education. You know, back then, that was a heck of a lot of money. I guess it's now about $45,000 a year. And I realized that I wasn't getting much from it. I would go into a lecture, I'd pay attention, and I found I could either take good notes or pay attention, but not both. If I paid attention, I would understand the concepts for all of 2 hours, then I'd walk away and promptly forget it. If I took good notes, I could retain the notes, but I'd never get an intuition, so it was useless to me. So I made a system that used the heads-up the screen where I can put the focus of my screen at the blackboard. I don't have to look up and down all the time. I made a keyboard, or I got a keyboard that was fast enough to type notes very quickly, so I could do very complex mathematics with this keyboard and actually keep up with the lecturer. But what I found that was really compelling is that my education at MIT was not in the classroom. It was in the hallway conversations. The things that were most relevant to my life and to my career were talking to a professor over the water cooler or walking past a grad student on the way to the bathroom. And I had no way to retain that information. You know, here's a simple example. Trevor, how do I get my information off a backup tape? Oh, Thad, it's easy. It's xvf/dev/nrst11. That's actually the command. And of course, by the time I walk back to my computer, I completely lost that information. With this computer, I can get right there as I'm talking to the person. So that's why I did this. And then there was science fiction authors tend to pester me at conferences. And one of them, his name was Werner Vinge. So this is an education conference, and the reason I did this was for education, for my own education. Let me recommend a book to you. This is Rainbow's End by Werner Vinge. It won the Hugo and Nebula Awards in 2007, just like almost every other book that Werner writes. And what it does is it talks about what happens when you give school children, like the children next door, a wearable computer, augmented reality, and a social network. In other words, we have a wearable computer that helps them remember their experiences and also develop their lessons interactively with computer support as they're working on their project. What happens when you have augmented reality where every surface or even the air itself becomes a blackboard, a public blackboard where you can leave notes for other people? What happens when you can recruit other people to solve your class problems? Now, this is really exciting to me and really scary because what he says ends up happening is high schools end up being like think tanks where they spin off micro companies to sell their class projects. And after reading this book, which is much more articulate than I ever could be as a public speaker, it's a wonderful book. I have a lot of nits to pick with the technology, but I can't refute his education model. It's a bit scary, so I highly recommend you guys reading it, and if you have opinions about why this model could not happen or will not happen, I'd really like to hear it, because it really changes everything we're doing as far as education, at least at my level, and I think the whole way down to elementary school.